hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. The Wild, obviously, in training camp, they played a couple preseason games, so hockey is back, which is awesome. What's not awesome is technical difficulties. And ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at Judd Zulgad and AJ Fredrickson, and now you're saying, where's Jesse Pierce? Let me explain quickly, and then we shall move on. So we recorded a show earlier today with Jesse. Unfortunately, our resources, our technology didn't work, and so we did save a chunk of what we talked about with Jesse. So she is going to show up at the end of the show. She did not come in late. She was here for the entire first thing. Unfortunately, the recording device was not. So we're going to hit on some topics right now. And then at the end of the show, we're going to give you the portion of JHS that Jesse participated in that actually was captured. Jesse, if you're watching this, you did nothing wrong. This is a technical goof up. Let's start off the show this way, though, Age, which is there is no, at least as of this recording, which we're doing this portion at 11:36 a.m. on Wednesday, there is no Kirill Kaprizov update contractually. We know nothing. And so we, of course, will continue to discuss it, but there is not a reason to discuss it every single week when there is no movement. Yeah. So let's get to another contract situation, Age, that I think is interesting. The Athletic has written about this a couple of times now, and Joe Smith and Michael Russo have written, I think, different stories about this, but the update or the situation is this. Filip Gustavsson, the Wild starting goaltender, entering his contract year. And the latest story from The Athletic pointed out that goaltender contracts are going up now. The salary cap is going up. There's always been sort of this debate about how do you handle a goaltender contractually because they are so, like relief pitchers in baseball, hit and miss sometimes. So here's the question. Filip Gustavsson going into the last year of his contract. Do you try to get a contract done ASAP, AJ? Do you allow this thing to work itself out? It sounds like Gustavsson is not bothered if it goes into the season.
Yeah.
What would be, if you're Bill Guerin, is your approach, we got to get this done? Like we've got all of these things on our plate. We got Kirill on our plate. We got Gus on our plate. Or does Filip Gustavsson get backburnered, not just because of Kirill, but because of the fact he is a goaltender who went good year, bad year, good year?
I think you're going to wait solely because it makes more sense for the Wild, just in the grand scheme of things. I mean, not just because Kirill Kaprizov isn't locked up for however many years they hope to settle on or whatever, but because of your exact point there, which is he's kind of been up and down. And I really feel like every offseason you see, and maybe this past season was less of an example of that, but in years prior, you've seen this like goalie kind of rotation where this guy goes here and then another guy goes here. And it's kind of just this, I'm going to take your job, you're going to take my job. And there's a giant shift amongst the league because, for instance, you have Filip Gustavsson, who's 27 right now, who you think should be able to kind of keep the level of play that we saw last season. But also, I think until we see back-to-back years of high-quality performance from him, it's hard to be confident that's exactly what we're going to see, as optimistic as I would like to be about it. But you also have that unsuredness of what you have behind him in Jesper Wallstedt, who is coming off a pretty bad season that he himself, I know, I think you spoke with him amongst some other media members that he's like, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to like dwell on that season anymore. He could rise to the occasion and be the guy that they expected when they drafted him, or we could see a repetition where you need a Filip Gustavsson to keep things just pretty much competitive in goal. But Filip Gustavsson right now has been a pretty good goalie the past calendar year for the Wild, but when it comes to this coming season, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. So it makes sense to wait in terms of, how much money you're going to be working with after you extend Kirill Kaprizov, optimistically, but also if he does show up and show out, then it's going to be, okay, it makes more sense for us to ink him. And then, maybe you do pay the over $6 million that you would want. But on the other side of things, if he comes slow out of the gate of what you see, then it's like, well, what do we really want to commit to more years here? Or on the off chance that everything goes terribly Everything goes wrong. Guys get hurt. They play poorly. It's like, well, maybe he's all right. You don't look like a playoff team. Then you trade him, and all of a sudden you can get a little bit back for a season that doesn't have much to be salvaged.
Whoops, I got to turn my mic on. I almost feel like he's in a situation where, unless he comes to you and says, I want to stay here so bad that I will take a deal that might be considered to be team friendly, I have no problem with extending this. Like to me, the Wallstedt thing to me, he's a first round pick. He had a miserable season. Most of it was the vast majority in Iowa. So is the kid a bust? We have no clue, but he could be really good.
Yeah.
I just don't feel the need to rush this and to say, we got to get this guy signed now. And look, if he's good, he's going to either get a big contract potentially on the open market or a big contract here. But what you just said, if he's not good and he has had a history of a roller coaster, then you've created some ability to make a decision. And I guess part of my bias about this whole thing too is how the Wilds worked in the past, which is gotta lock him up, gotta lock him up, gotta lock him up. Foligno, gotta lock him up. Hartman, gotta lock him up. Zuccarello, gotta lock him up. I don't think you do. I don't think you do. I think it's very fair. And look, I would also like to see, with the pressure of being in a contract year, how Gus plays. Partially because I think it's going to keep him on edge. And if you sign him, if you give him a 4-year contract tomorrow with a complete no move, no trade, which is unquestionably what's going to happen. There might be in 2 years, it might be a limited no trade, but you're creating comfort. Pro sports isn't necessarily meant to be comfortable for everybody. And I don't think that Filip Gustavsson's at a point where he is like, you got to have him. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov is a very special case. Mm-hmm. I want him locked up tomorrow if possible. And I would find a way to make that work. But, the Wild's whole mentality has been, we got to lock this guy up. We got to get that guy. We got to get this guy. And you create this comfort that I don't think is necessary. I don't think it helps you at all. And I think it actually hurts you at times. So I do not see a need to rush here. I don't see it. And while goaltender contracts are going up, and I get that, the other thing to keep in mind is the fluidity of goaltenders' situations and how they play on a year-to-year basis is not changing. Like, unless you have a guy who's your guy, Jonathan Quick in his prime with the Kings, right? There's no question he was going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And I don't see that in Gus. I'm sorry. He had a really nice year. That's awesome. But they still lost in the first round of the playoffs, and it wasn't all his fault or his fault. But there's nothing that leads me to believe that a lot of the guys that the Wilds insisted on keeping deserve that they have to be kept. So I would be very happy if the Wild said, you know what? Let's kick the can down the road. If you want to stay, that's awesome. We'll try to find a way. But you cannot be like this. We got to get it done before opening night priority. In this case, I'm fine with allowing him to play in the last season of his contract.
Yeah, and I would imagine it probably makes a lot of sense for the Wild to have already had some talks with him, or at least his representation during the summer. Sure. It would be negligent to not. Sure. But I'm sure they've had, and this is where some of the speculation and rumors about potential monetary values comes out, that it's like, okay, you look at other goalies around the league, kind of same age, kind of same level of play, and it's like, okay, yeah, 6.5 ish in that window. And I'm sure that potentially is on the table as like starting talks for them. But it's also, as you get into the season, it's kind of like Sunday of a golf event where you see these guys at the top, and then all of a sudden, on 17, he just missed a putt. Oh, he bogeyed 18, and now you go from second to fifth, and it's like you see the money just get taken away with each and every stroke that they lose. Mm-hmm. Similar here, if he comes out and you take on Columbus night 1 or whoever it is, you give up 4 goals. 3 of them are really bad. Okay, well, it was night 1. It's whatever. You go a few weeks down the road. Hey, you are not playing that well. You're slowly seeing that 6.5. We like you. Maybe you find your game in the second half of the season, but there's always going to be that, he's just started slow again. And we've seen that before. We need you to come firing right out of the gate. You see that. And so if the Wild do want to, I think it actually benefits them to wait, in the sense that you can argue against it. Whereas down the road, hey, you started off good, blah, 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 all this stuff. We had these preliminary talks, and now that we locked up Kirill, presumably, let's just ink this. Let's get you done. Now you, what you're saying, where it's like, we got to lock him up. We got to lock him up.
Alston might be the guy too. That's what I want to find out. Is your first round pick the guy? Because he might be. And if that's the case, if he rebounds and starts to play great, he might not be a backup. He might be a starter. And so there's just a lot of things at play here. The next thing is intriguing as well. So we don't know a lot about this yet, but Mats Zuccarello, I think in the physical, in the preseason physical he took, they found something wrong. We don't know what. And he is seeing a specialist now, and he's going to find out if he needs surgery. It sounds like he will not be prepared for the start of the season. And by the way, this could change today. We could find out. But if he needs surgery, obviously he's going to be sidelined longer. That's the bad news. The good news is this opens up a top 6 spot for a guy that we've been politicking to get a chance here, Liam Ohgren. And it sounds like from all accounts, he's a far more confident player. He's shooting the puck more. He's got a good shot, but he is also not trying to defer. He's been on a second line that very well could start the season, which is Ohgren on the left. Joel Erikssonek is the center. And then the new acquisition, Tarasenko, is the right wing. So give me your thoughts on the fact that Ohgren is finally going to get a chance that I think he, number one, deserves. Number two, it's go time. Yeah. So too bad that Zuccarello's out, but this does create a situation where I think you do get a look at a guy on a top 6 role that you needed to get a look at without coming up with an excuse for why he had to go to Iowa or why he needed to be on the 4th line.
Yeah, this is a bad situation where you get a really good positive spin zone out of it, which is you lose a very kind of sneaky, productive guy that's just been so consistent. Obviously, he's aging, last year of his contract, and Mats Zuccarello. But now this just paves the way for a guy like Liam Ohgren, who I think scouts agree. I think so, based on his skill set, the way he plays the game, what he excels at, should be a top 6 guy. Getting him in there at a second line winger is exactly, I think, where he's supposed to be. Whereas the looks we've gotten from him in the past, even last year with his short stint, you're putting him on the 4th line, Judd, and it's like you have this mentality that you're a checking line and you're going out there to you just don't get scored on. That's your job. You go out there, throw the body around. If you get a chance, take it, but then you're off the ice for the big 6, whether it's line 1 or 2, and that's their job, is to create some offense. Now, if he can do that, he can focus solely on that. We get a real showcase of, can he be the guy that you drafted in the 1st round a couple of years ago, and what hopes to be a top 6 scorer that, I mean, one of the scouts like write-ups of him that I remember very vividly in past years is comparable to Brock Besser at his ceiling. Well, Brock Besser was a guy that was heavily linked to the Wild in the offseason. I bet you a lot of Wild fans still wish they would have gotten a guy like that, who is when he's on his game, high-scoring, elite shot type of guy who puts the puck in the back of the net. Well, that sure would be nice to have for a guy who you drafted is in your system, and last time I checked is making not a lot of money, Judd, because he's still on that entry-level deal. Who, let's see, how much is he making that? Yeah, so he's making less than $1 million, will be an RFA after 2 more seasons, but he's only 21. So he's still developing, and now this is where you have to give him a showcase to be the guy that you would expect, a top 6 scoring winger. And I mean, if you look at what has been leaked and what's been talked about, he went from last offseason Liam Ohgren to now working out, building muscle. He's gone from Liam Ohgren to Liam, oh my God, because he looks like a completely different guy. Like, he's just a massive muscle. So I'm excited to see him hopefully take this in stride and just show this is where I'm supposed to be.
28 career games with the Wild so far, 3 goals, 7 points total. Now, it is interesting that he played 24 games with the Wild last season. He played 41 for the Iowa Wild last season, 19 goals and 37 points. And I think given a top 6 role here, and this is iffy, I don't know, he might be, if and when Mats comes back, he might be a 3rd line guy. But I think we're talking a guy that can, if he's given the chance, the opportunity, score 20 goals here this season at the least. So yeah, it might be forced upon them, but I do think that it is good that that at least with Mats out, unless he just plays terribly, there's no excuses for not playing him. Because we've talked about this. It's time to look at some of these kids. Like Zeev Buljam, if he's a -4 in one game, should not be scratched the next night. Quite frankly, with the price that you paid, which was a steep price in the Juracek trade from the Blue Jackets, he needs to play. Like, it can't be, well, he struggled, we're going to send him to Iowa. At some point in time, you've got to begin to turn the roster over. And I think it's very fair with the work that Ohgren has put in with what he showed you at Iowa last year, and the fact that, quite frankly, without the salary cap problems, he might have played more games here, that he is, at the very least, he needs to be given a real opportunity in the top 9.
Yeah.
Like, if Zuccarello comes back and you want to move him to the third, I don't want any of this fourth line crap.
No, and that's where you take Marcus Johansson out of the lineup and you say, I'm sorry, Marcus Foligno, I love what you do in the locker room. I love what you do on the ice, but your style of game, we need you on the fourth line right now with a Yakov Trenin who, that with Nico Sturm, and that's the game that we need you to play right now, because you have a letter on your chest for a reason. You need to adapt here because we have a young guy who's 21. And if he shows you that he can play in the top 6 or like contributes in that realm, I understand Mats Zuccarello comes back. You have to put a Mackey either top line or second line. And then Matt Boldy's coming back down to second line. So is Tarasenko going to move down right now? Probably not, especially if you're going strictly off box score from like training camp scrimmages and what we're seeing. It makes sense for him to stay second line, but then you move him down to a presumably third line with Yurov and Hartman. That seems fine, because that's a line that still you can ask him to maybe be a little physical. He's added that muscle, but that's a line that also should produce some offense. And then you kind of have a secondary scoring third line that I think just suits them fine. Like that is where you go, but you're exactly right. Fourth line cannot be the option for him.
Well, and you bring up a very interesting question, and we've talked about this a lot, and I know where we stand on it, but you bring up the very interesting Marcus Johansson, just scratch him point. Like, I'm very curious about that. Yeah. It feels like it's hard for John Hines. I don't know why to scratch him. Trenton coming into camp in shape, like he should play the fourth line all the time. And guys get hurt, so there's going to be opportunity. I mean, Trenton will probably get some third line time because guys get hurt. But that being said, it's going to be very interesting to see. But I feel like we're at a crucial point now of having to play some of the quote unquote kids because you can't find excuses not to play them. Like, it can't always be an excuse not to play them. And then to go back to what we've talked about before, it can't be, well, William really struggled in those playoff games, so we're going to put John Merrill in, Like, if you've got a better option, okay, let's see the better option. But John Merrill is not, I know he knows your system more, and I know he's a veteran, but he doesn't know, he's not a better option. So, okay, that's part 1 of JHS. Part 2, again, Jessie Pierce did not show up late. She did nothing wrong. We lost the first part of the recording because sometimes technology can bite you in the ass. So here is part 2 of Judd's Hockey Show for this week. The last thing, I was out at practice again, or the scrimmage, it was on Saturday. Yurov, okay? He was playing on a line with Trennan and Vinny Hinostroza, who I'm guessing is not going to make the final roster to start the season. But nonetheless, he was at center, Jessie Pierce. He was at center. So what are we thinking now, a couple of weeks in or a week into training camp? What are we thinking about what his role could potentially be?
It's going to be very interesting because it's not like he's being lauded with high praise either. You know what I mean? Not to say that they're knocking him down, but it's certainly not to the level that I think we were all hoping for or expecting. And that's fair though, too, because Danila needs to acclimate to everything. I mean, his English is very poor. So it's been really cool to see Tarasenko and Kirill and even Trennan kind of step in and help with some of that leadership and even just the communication styles. And then now getting used to North American hockey and then now jumping into the NHL. They're trying to keep things fairly consistent around him so he can really learn the systems as a whole and not focus on some of the details. They do want to keep him at center until they absolutely can't anymore, right? That's kind of their hope, and their goal is to keep pushing that. And I know Yurov is comfortable enough there, but I think right now some of the I don't want to say problems, but some of the questions we might be seeing, I think just truly revolve around this being such a new experience for him. Like, just everything is so different and so new, and it's going to take time. And that's what training camp is for. I mean, I don't mind training camp in these situations, right? Because it is for a player exactly like him that just needs to get caught up to speed, needs to figure things out. I mean, everything is moving at such a high rate, and you've got guys playing every other night right now at training camp, and they are on the ice almost every day. So I think that's going to be great. I think it'll get him, obviously, to where he needs to be come the start of the actual season. But I think right now, yeah, I'm reserving a whole lot of criticism just because I recognize it's just a huge amount of change for this young kid as he comes over here. But he's learning. You can see the comfort level already from even the rookie camp, where I wasn't that blown away at the rookie tournament, to where he is now. You can just see him starting to kind of settle in, because that's the biggest thing. I think once he settles in, he's able to get to his game, right? We always hear about that, like, just let him get to his game, let him play his game. And I think they're, putting him in different situations to kind of see what can bring it out of him. But yeah, I don't think Vinny Hinostroza is going to be a factor into his future line mate. I don't know.
Okay, Age, if he makes the team but starts playing at wing, are you going to lose it? Are you going to flip out?
I'll be upset. Yeah, I will be. Only because I genuinely think he plays better as a center. I understand that they probably want to, but kind of like what Jesse said, they want to keep him there until they don't. But my concern, and this is exactly spot on with what Jesse was saying, is like he's adjusting. He's slowly kind of getting more comfortable doing this, going through the daily motions of, okay, go to the ring. You're doing all this stuff, but it's in a foreign country. He doesn't necessarily have the best English, so he's he's hopscotching his way through the day a lot of the times, where it's like 1 2 1 1 2. He doesn't know exactly A to B to C in the most efficient manner. But I think on the ice, that's probably the best language he can speak right now, which is just flat out hockey. But I think as he settles in, you're going to see his game get better. He's going to show, I deserve to be in the middle of the ice and not on the wing. But it's how quick can he get there? Because we know with this coaching staff and this front office, they tend to not give the younger guys the benefit of the doubt that they're going to get there. So I'm nervous he doesn't get there to whatever their finish line is in their mind quick enough. And all of a sudden say, yeah, we're going to put you on the wing. And then they try to maybe reintegrate him at some point when maybe Hartman doesn't work out at the center position, or however that does. And then it's just a little too confusing. I would love to see him start there, be given the chance. But if he doesn't, wow, this is the NHL. This isn't high school hockey. This isn't like a D1 program where you're kind of trying to build up whatever and, you're not trying to make a name for yourself. This is a out to win Stanley Cup type of organization, and you don't really have that time to dilly-dally around with a guy who can or cannot be a third line center. You need to put a guy in there who probably can, which Ryan Hartman is, but I would like to see Yurov, because I think when he does get acclimated, he at least raises the ceiling of that position for the Wild.
Here's where I don't like the European clauses, because I would love to see Yurov spend a year in Iowa and get acclimated there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would help, or at least a little bit of time. You can't, he goes back to the KHL or it's here. So I think that's where I'm always like, this one I would understand, I think, just to kind of get him in the group, even just a couple weeks, right? Just a few weeks down there, just to kind of season and then come up here and find that confidence. Because I think that's the other thing. Like, I'm not saying he's lost confidence by any stretch, but I imagine internally he's trying to figure that out too, right? Like, I'm so out of place here. I'm so kind of learning all of this. So it's like, that's where I'm like, God, I wish we could just like 2 weeks in Iowa, just to feel it out.
All right, kids, hockey is back. It's fantastic. It's great. The Wild plays its first preseason home game on Thursday against the Dallas Stars, and then we get going in full gear. So Judd's Hockey Show coming at you probably multiple times a week, starting this week as well. It's Jesse, it's AJ, it's Judd. We'll talk to you later.